Thus far, we focused on the properties of the blues and basic improvisational strategies involving playing with blues riffs and using the call and response technique. We will finish lecture 2 with a discussion of the concept of one-scale improvisation. As emphasized earlier, the blues scale is an androgynous collection, neither major nor minor, and we can capitalize on that unique characteristic by advancing our musical narrative using one scale only, without worrying too much about underlying chords, about establishing a correct chord-scale relationship. The only thing we will worry about is the rhythm and the rhythmic organization of our melodic ideas. So the rhythmic phrases that were introduced earlier in the session now will come very handy, because you can derive your melodic ideas exclusively from the blues scale or from the major blues scale, and just worry about playing with a good sense of time. We will now demonstrate, together with Christian, how to improvise, how to tell a musical story using the one-scale method. So, Christian, how about on the generic blues progression, play 2 choruses using the blues scale exclusively. And again, just to remind you, our blues scale sounds like this. So what you're going to hear from Christian are only those notes in these 2 choruses. And the challenge that Christian has is to be musically convincing and interesting, and at the same time convey a particular story. Remember about the properties of the blues scale, the characteristic of blue notes, the hierarchy among those notes. When you listen to flat 5, the triton-related blue note, the sound of that note will project more expressiveness in your playing. So all these details Christian has to deal with while he improvises. So let's do that. One scale improvisation, 2 choruses. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. It was very effective, and you could hear that his phrasing was very strong. The second chorus, as you might expect, went to the higher register. His melodic ideas were extremely strong, very powerful. His distribution of blue notes, very convincing. Not too much of the flat 5, but just to give another expressive dimension in his playing. But what was particularly effective in his playing is his sense of phrasing, which was asymmetrical. He wasn't confined to the 4-bar units. He wasn't thinking about 2 bars, 2 bars, 2 bars. His phrases frequently begin on measure 4 and to the next section. And that's very effective, which brings me to an important point that with limited melodic devices, such as ideas derived from a single scale, you can play a convincing solo. So Christian, tell me about your solo. What were you thinking while improvising on that piece?
I was just thinking about keeping my ideas simple, not trying to keep the ideas in 2 bars or so, just kind of thinking over the bar line and keeping it interesting.
Yeah, so that's really important. So you're not really confined within a formal constraints of the form, but you're thinking in a way above those formal constraints. You're focusing on the melodies, on the melodic properties, but at the same time delivering these ideas with a strong sense of time and rhythm and articulation. So all the things that we've talked about in these sessions, playing with a good sense of time, remembering about emphasizing upbeats with a little accent, prioritizing upbeats and playing across the bar lines and using swing 8 notes come really into play in one's performance. So in a way, our playing was a little bit abstract because we didn't have any melody to work with. So I basically asked Christian to improvise a musical story without any point of reference. And he did a pretty amazing job using no melodies. But the thing's a little bit different when you're actually faced with a melody that you have to improvise on. So what I asked Christian to do is to compose a contrafact, a pre-existing melody on the pre-existing chord changes in the blues, so we can actually have the melody on which Christian can improvise. So on the screen you can see his contrafact called East Main Blues. So let's play it, okay? 1, 2, and 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we have a specific melody now. We don't have only chord changes, but we have a melody to work with. So Christian, can you tell us a little bit about that melody?
I basically just used the B-flat blues scale, and I tried to think of a simple riff that would work on all over the changes. So I used the first quarter note of the first measure to use it as like a call. And then in measure 4, the last 2 8 notes there, I kind of used it as a response to the very first quarter note. So I thought that would be really effective. And then later it ends with 3 8 notes to just answer back to the original first quarter note in the beginning.
Yeah, very nice. So all the melodic content from Christian's composition is derived from the blues, and they're like rhythmic intricacies in a way a melody is composed. So in order to be successful at improvisation, whether you work on a blues tune, on a jazz instrumental or a jazz standard, you have to connect your improvisational content with the melody. So that the same harmonic progression of the blues can be used in different tunes is fairly obvious. And there are numerous contrafacts written over the same chord changes. But jazz improvisers do not improvise on chord changes, but they improvise on specific melodies. So it's really, really important to reference that melody in one's improvisation. So we would like to finish this session by playing the tune and improvise in a couple of choruses and just make the melody focus, in your playing. Okay, let's try. So let's play one chorus melody in, then 2 choruses of improvisation, and then melody out. Okay, so 4 choruses all together. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Very nice. It's a great performance. And you could hear in the first chorus, when you go back and listen one more time, notice that the first 4 bars of Christian's first solo were entirely based on the original motive, with slight rhythmic variations. So instead of playing the consecutive 8 notes, he distributed them, into a string of upbeats. And his first chorus were maintained with the same register established by the melody. Only in the second chorus, Christian went up and introduced more complex rhythmic and melodic vocabulary, but still within the confines of the blues scale. Right, so very effective. So thank you so much, Christian, for your participation, great playing and great suggestions to the audience. In the next sessions, we are going to talk about keyboard skills and discuss 4 different methods of realizing harmonic progressions on the piano. Thank you.